Hey guys, welcome back to another video, this time about Seymour because I'm feeling generous today. So, Seymour, how do I even begin to describe shit more? Anyway, Seymour doesn't get too different of an upgrade with his kit. He gets a little bit more HP dumps in between attacks, but his role as a DPS stays the same, where his full potential unlocks when the enemy drops below 50%. The first potential of his kit unlocks below 80%, so that's that. But regardless, Seymour is a little bit weird because we're in the FR era where if you're trying to drop the enemy anywhere below 90% without entering an FR, you're bound to take a lot of turns or at least a lot of action. So taking that into consideration, it definitely means that in a path of least resistant part, you definitely enter the force time, or at least your first force time, where the enemy is at least around 80 to 90%. So you're definitely not unlocking Seymour's potential right there. So what I'm trying to imply here is Seymour is not just about setting up a higher gauge of your force HP damage bonus up, but you also have to target your specific enemy well so that Seymour can unlock his potential at level 3 of all of his kit. So starting off, you can take a look at he's a very strong DPS at highest potential, with his EX actually able to deal 13 HP dumps, not including launches, on the main target. So that's a very huge amount of HP attack for anyone that is not Anacro. He also provides a wide range of utility with his Dispel, his Delay, his HP damage up all in one skill, which is his LD, and then all his skill 1, skill 2, and his EX does provide his debuff as well, although it's not too relevant of a stat down debuff. But anyway, he actually has a new kit in his BT where he provides a party-wide Dispel to the entire party whenever you attack the enemy. Kinda like a vanilla spear on everyone, except you don't need to break. And this only triggers when the BT is at level 3, means that the enemy is below 50%. So like I said, the biggest issue of Seymour is that his entire kit relies him on getting the enemy's HP down first, and then the lower the enemy's HP goes, the stronger his attack will be. But to get it down that part, you may need a secondary DPS, or at least you may need some help to achieve that, because not only his BT or his damage is tied to that enemy's HP, but his FR as well. So going into his FR, you can see that his FR requires him not just to attack enemy without any debuff, which is the easier part to fulfill 40% when attacking enemy with no debuff, but you have to have the enemy goes below the stacks that I mentioned before, the 80% and the 50%, where each stacks would then increase by 10% of Seymour's condition. So it's kind of bad because even at maximum potential, all you get is 60% HP damage bonus. And going into what I mentioned before about HP damage cap up in the FR aura, Seymour actually has it with a 20% HP damage cap up to the entire party when the enemy has 0 buff. So that part can be interesting, but it's definitely not enough to justify the low FR HP damage up condition as well as the low FR HP damage cap up. Because if you consider him, or if you compare him with Anacro, for example, most people think that Anacro is a unit that has a very hard condition to fulfill, but I think Seymour is a lot harder, and Anacro actually has an 80% FR HP damage bonus up along with a 50% FR HP damage cap up with her FR. So that part itself is actually making Seymour looks really bad with his own FR. Again, like I said, for me, Seymour doesn't function really well for his FR if you're going to open it the first time, because all those conditions is definitely not a very compelling condition for you to use it as an FR opener. Most likely in a situation where you're going to use 2 FR in the entire stage, and then you want to use your first FR on another character, and then your second FR with Seymour here being a little bit more compelling to use it later down the line. But yeah, for me, if you really want to use Seymour, the only issue that you may have is the attacking enemy with no buff in a stage where the enemy buff himself or themselves constantly. So you want units that steal buff, or at least units that dispel, such as Yuffie, Baltier, or even Beatrix. But let's be honest, if you're completely using Seymour's kit, you definitely have the enemy HP down below 50%, or at least one of them, and then his BT at least is at 3 stacks, so all the character that you bring will be in some form able to dispel regardless. So yeah, he's definitely functioning better with other FR in my opinion. One prime example is Lilithset, since Seymour actually provides a ton of debuff as well. So Lilithset with her kit and her FR condition being attacking enemy with debuff, so it's not really hard for Seymour to fulfill. And then we have Anarcrow, because Seymour is non-elemental, it's easy for him to just put in calls to fulfill Anarcrow's FR. And then of course, like I said, he does dispel, or at least provide dispel to the entire party as well. So he definitely worked well with Baotier, although in some form Baotier want the enemy to take turns so that he can gain a free FR, but Seymour's LD delay the enemy, so that's a little bit counterproductive in that area. But regardless, Seymour actually has, in my opinion, a specific BT rotation to actually max out his entire kit. The best way is at least you have a free skill for him prior to entering his BT, whether or not the free skill comes from other character or at least from himself from using his EX. So if you have the free skill, you want to focus on using his skill 1 first, and then his skill 2, and then his skill 1 again, and then his LD, and then his EX, and finally his FR. The reason being so is that his EX actually promotes a longer and a bigger follow-up attack so that he can do a lot more damage. If you're not, however, having any free skill for Seymour prior to entering his BT, then you want to focus on using his EX first, and then his skill 1 and skill 1 LD, and then FR finisher in an AoE enemy attack. Or if you're targeting a single target, then you definitely want to use his skill 1 later, because his skill 1 is actually really awesome. 8 single target HP attack alongside with 3 AoE HP attack. So definitely in a single target wise, it is more powerful. But the suggested strat for Seymour is actually really simple. You want to push one specific enemy down first instead of trying to balance both HP of the enemy to below 49% so that you can unlock Seymour's potential even when targeting the other ally, or I mean the other enemy. Because Seymour, the way that Seymour works is not that he has to target the enemy below 50%, but as long as there's one specific enemy in an AoE enemy situation where the enemy is below 50%, Seymour's potential will be automatically unlocked, even if he's targeting the other character or the other enemy. So yeah, personally I think Seymour is a rather low to mid priority banner. The only price for me here is his LD call. To be honest, he's still one of the best LD call regardless of his entire shitty kit. But like I said, Seymour's kit is extremely weird because he gets his full potential below 50%. So unless you time your kit or your force time really well, it's a bit awkward where his entire kit relies on him trying to, or at least struggling to push down the enemy below 50%, and then from there work on having to unlock his entire kit and his entire damage. So yeah, I personally gonna just skip this banner. I skip it in my JP account and I don't feel compelled to pull this character. I might do so in my alternate because I have him blue and everything, but it's just a huge might because Jack Garland is coming out and my alternate is just going for Jack Garland because my main is definitely skipping all this character until I roll half BT. So yeah, I don't see myself actually wanting this character that much, but we'll see. If I get his BT and his FR early with a few tickets, I might max out his potential. But yeah, if you're trying to run Seymour in future content, there is actually a content creator called Nightingale, and I'll put his channel in my description below because he actually runs Seymour quite frequently, even right now in the FRJP Echo era. And in my opinion, Seymour actually works a lot better during FR Echo era because the fact that you have to set up with Echo either early or later, there's two ways to play around it, but Seymour works very well against the early setup Echo stuff because you can just set up your Echo early and then with all the attacks coming from the FR Echo, you're bound to get the enemy below the intended HP that you want, at least 79% that is, and then Seymour can unlock his first potential once you go into his BT. So yeah, Seymour definitely functioned a little bit better in my opinion during the FR Echo era rather than what we get right now. So hopefully if you like him, you'll definitely enjoy him a little bit more then. Alright, so that's all for now. Thank you guys again for watching. Let me know what your plan is for Shitmore. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.